welcome to the Hudson Area Library. A lot of you know that we have a local history speaker series about once a month, and we're very pleased this month to be co-sponsoring an event with SBK Social Justice Center, and and they have a series called Barbershop Talks. So we're combining those two tonight, and we have a lot of people here. We're going to be talking about the history of the Black community in Hudson, and we have a panel of people who will be speaking, and we're also really hoping that people here who have comments or questions or information that they could add will also add to this. I think that's somewhat what the barbershop talks are like. So I'm going to give you some announcements with Shanika McIntosh. Yay! She's our youth services person and also works in programming. And I'm Brenda Schufeld, I'm the program director. Our first announcement is, yeah, that'd be great. So our next local history speaker series at the library is called, hold it still, Libelers, Monsters, and Rebels, the Jacob Leisler Institute and Research into New York's Neglected English Colonial Period. And if any of you don't know, we have a wonderful history institute that looks into the origins of Dutch history in the local area, and this talk will be by David William Voorhees. So we're very excited about that. It's Thursday, February 22nd at 6 p.m. And then Shanika and I are going to...
We have one copy of this, so...
No, we have a lot. Don't listen. No, we have a lot. And then you're going to talk about these.
So we're really excited and really want to thank all of you, we think you all voted, and the people of Hudson who voted for our community-based funding initiative this past November. Because of your overwhelming support of Hudson, we can say that we will be open 7 days a week starting this week. To kick it all off, we will be having a 7-day-a-week party in the library, quiet party only. We will be kicking off our new story time with Pamela Badilla, which will be happening Folk Tales with Pamela. We will also be, you can get your photo taken. We're doing a lot. Brenda likes to because of a lot of work by the history room volunteers, we were able to collect a 100-year history of the Hudson High School yearbooks that we now have in our history room every year. And we will be having a photographer available for you to be able to take a photo with either your high school self or your distant relative. And all you have to do is email us, and we'll find your relative or your past self, and you'll be able to take a professional photo with it. And that's a free service that we'll be doing from 1 to 4 p.m. Oh yeah, and then we have a bassoon trio, North Winds. They'll be performing from 4 to 5:30 in the library. And we'll have cookies. From the Friends of the Hudson Area Library, they will be providing us with cookies and treats. Also, some of you may not know this, but Frederick Douglass's birthday is Valentine's Day. This is when he chose to celebrate it because he didn't know when his actual birthday was. It's the 200th birthday for Frederick Douglass. So we'll be having a birthday celebration with Lena Mosley of Operation Unite. There'll be stories, activities, and music. This is good for toddlers and adults. And we'll also have a birthday cake with an image of Frederick Douglass, which I'm really excited. Yes, that'll be cake.
And it's for ages 7 to 12 and families. And you, how old are you? You don't want to say? You could come.
6.
You could come.
We also have just started a nonfiction book group. It met for the first time last month. Next month will be, I know this, The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. They'll be meeting in March, and we just want people to know that if they would like to join, it's open, and so you have time to read the book. And then we are doing an Audre Lorde reading and discussion series.
Yeah.
Audre Lorde was a very special person, poet, librarian, and she will be reading her work with a facilitated discussion group. We also have a film screening, a free one, the week before. It's about her Berlin years, time she spent in Berlin from 1984 to 1992. It's really exciting. It's actually going to be screening at BAM 3 days before. We're going to be able to show it, but we have it. So that's really exciting, and that's free. And anyway, this is just some of the stuff that we are up to, and there'll be more to come, especially in the summer. We're really excited, and thank you guys all so much for supporting us as we continue on our mission to support you all.
You have a question?
How old are you?
I'm not ashamed. I always feel like I should say that I'm older, so people go, you look good. I'm 57 years old. Okay. Yeah, it's a lot of money. So, all right, enough of that. So, we are here partly because of the history room. No one's allowed to laugh at how old I am. We're here partly because of the history room that's associated with the library, and it's a very important part of our library. It covers the local history of the city of Hudson and also somewhat Columbia County. And we have very dedicated volunteers, including John Craig, who's here tonight. And we have many open hours. We've expanded the hours that we're open because we have more volunteers. Some of you may not know, if you have any questions about history, the history of your building, or something that you have a burning question about, why is that street named that? You can fill out a history request form, and it's a free service that we do for the patrons. So you're welcome to do that. You can find the form online, you can fill it out and send it to us online, or you can come in person, meet with the volunteers, and they really do fulfill those requests. We also are very interested in having more volunteers, and particularly because of tonight's topic, we would like to recruit volunteers that would show more diversity on our committee. So please do think about that if you're a person who has interest in local history. And let's see. Okay, so we are ready to begin. I'm going to introduce to you the person who made tonight is responsible for making tonight possible, Quentin Krauss. He's a long-time resident of Hudson. He's the co-founder of SBK Social Justice Center. He has always been active in his community. It's very important to him. And as I've gotten to know him a little bit more from this event, he has a big feeling about the history of the Black community in Hudson and having that history preserved and known. So this has been a great experience for me also. He holds a BS in Public Affairs from SUNY Empire State College. He's also the recipient of the SUNY Graduate Diversity Fellowship, and he's currently pursuing a master's degree in Work and Policy Studies. He's the proud father of 10-year-old twin daughters.
Thank you all for coming out. What do I want to say? First, I want to recognize a couple of people first. I want to recognize another co-founder of SBK, my brother, Quentin Krauss, who's here. One of our long-standing chairman of the board, Alex Garrett, who's here. showing up for racial justice, for the child care. Thank you so much. Rebecca, another former board member of SBK. So we started in the barbershop. We're going on our sixth year. Started in the barbershop. And the first thing we did publicly was start a radio show, which was Barbershop Talks. And we're like going into our 6 years, and then, you know, Facebook shows all the pictures start showing up on your feed or what have you. So how we started when we mobilized and stormed City Hall, they said, to advocate for youth. That was our first action. And we're here today. And we're here today to basically honor some people from our community. Because oftentimes we don't hear those stories. We hear, you know, when we came to Hudson, it was nothing. Well, some of us was here. Maybe, Riley. But we thank you so much for coming out. I get to introduce the current president and boss of SBK. This is a bittersweet moment for me because this is my last event. I'm like 1 month away from moving to Philadelphia, so I'm happy. But without further ado, I want to introduce our president and chairwoman of our board, someone who is dedicated, committed, a fighter for the community, someone who stands alone many times when nobody stands with her, but she's there. Someone who like values the input of those who have been marginalized and oppressed, and just takes that and moves it forward. A fierce woman, a fierce black woman, a fierce black Latina woman. The Honorable Tiffany Garriga.
I'm so happy to see all these faces here tonight, and I'm more than happy to honor these two lovely women on stage. Oh my God, I'm ready to cry. Oh my goodness. I have the privilege of knowing these two women for as long as I've been in Hudson, and I've been here since 1999. And when I met these two women right here, being a stranger, it was open arms and welcome. And it was like, I'm from New York City, so when I came up here, it was like, these are the rules of Hudson, young lady. You know, this is how we do. And I had to learn that, you know, because I'm in a different city. And I'm very proud and honored to learn those rules. And to be a part of what I call them my family. Because they are two beautiful women and they have children and grandchildren in this community. And we all have a story because we all came to Hudson in a different way, on a different road, different path, and we are here. And one thing that we're doing here in the city of Hudson is learning how to be that community that is a one Hudson. And that's what we need to be. And with further ado, I want to start off by introducing Miss Emma Roberts. And Miss Quentin Krauss. And when we start off, I would like to ask, I'm going to give you to the mic, but I would like to ask you two women to tell your story of how you came to Hudson and how it is so different from when you came here and what it is today, and the opportunities that were here in the city when you all came to Hudson, and where are they now? Because we need them. So without further ado.
My name is Emma Roberts, and I came to Hudson in 1963 from Winter Haven, Florida. So I've been here for 55 years. I came up with 5 kids. My husband was here for a year before I moved, and I came up with 5 kids. And when I got here and got out the car, I was crying, my kids was crying, because I didn't know nobody. But the first family that I met was Gaynell Butler, and that was through one of my younger kids that left the house, and I didn't know where she was, and I got so scared, and I went walking down the street, and I found Boosie, Gaynell's daughter, was on the step. And I said, did you see Annette? She said, she's upstairs. So that's how I met Gaynell. Okay. So then I stayed down, I moved down to North Front Street, and I met a lovely family, Mrs. Mary Wood. Her name was Wood at that time. And then I also met, there was a place called The Rock. I'd never been there but The Rock. And Juanita Carr and Joe Carr, I met them. They used to walk past the house all the time. Very friendly people. And then later on, I got burned out. I lost everything. And the Red Cross moved me up to 5th Street, 5th and 4th, where the red dot along there. That's where I met Jesse Morrison and Faye Lott. We became friends. So I stayed there for like 6 months, and then I moved back down Front Street, but it was South Front Street. And I met Mr. and Mrs. J.C. Watson, and Beauty and I became friends. And across the street with the Hugheses. Now you're talking about a very close-knit family. The Hugheses was a very close-knit family. And you're talking about cooking? Oh my Lord, they can cook and still cooking. And then further down was Liz Hunter. And I also met at my church, I joined Shiloh Baptist Church under the direction of Reverend Wrigley. And I was there until Reverend Ronald Grant, who's been there for 23 years. So I've been very active in Shiloh. I sang in the choir, I do anything they want me to do. And I also met the Fultons. Now, there's a lady that I love, so she passed away, Sister Hazel Murray. I worked with her. She used to do catering for the trips on the river. And she did for the Black Festival, I helped her doing that. And she also did Flag Day. And I sit to Hazel house every day. She'll call me, Emma, what you doing? I said, oh, Hazel, I'm tired. Come on down, I want you to make me some potato salad. I love your potato salad. So I became real close to Hazel up until she passed. And so what I'm saying is, I met a lot of people, a lot of good families, but I can't remember their names. But that's how I got to Hudson, by my husband. And I'm kind of nervous. I raised 8 kids, and they all graduated except one from Hudson High. I'm the grandmother of 28, and the great-grandmother of 43, the great-grandmother of 6. So altogether, I have 77 offspring. 77. But like I said, it was kind of strange coming up because, for one thing, I wasn't used to the building being together. See, in Florida, the houses that we lived in, you could go around. You had your own yard and stuff, so it was hard for me to get used to Hudson. But like I say, I love Hudson. Evidently I do, but I've been here 55 years. But like I say, yes, Hudson have changed. But one thing that cannot change is my memory of Hudson.
Tell us your story, Ms. Cross, how you came out to
But you don't mind, I'd like to sit, because I feel like I would be too tall if I stood up here. I don't want you to have to pick me up. How I got here? I was born here. I was born November the 2nd, 1953. To the parents of Bernice and Edward Cross, and my first house was 213 Columbia Street. It's just a lot right now because there's no house there anymore. And we lived there until I was 12, and then we moved down to 15 North First Street, which was right around the corner from the Hudson Youth Center, where most of us lived at when we went home. Yes, and then from there we moved to 22 North 2nd Street, which is now a building. It's right across the street from Providence Hall on that corner going up. And we lived there, oh gosh, I lived there until 1975 when I moved into the high-rise. It was me, my 2 oldest children, and my 3rd child was on the way. And lived in the high-rise for 26 years. Until I finally saw fit, and God blessed me with my own home. It was very strange for feeling when Quentin asked me to do this, because when I think of history, I think of older people. And then I realized, that's what it is. I mean, I think that was the realization. Wait a minute. I've stepped over into that category as being an older person. Hudson's much different than it was when I was growing up. When I was growing up, parents, you stayed where you were supposed to stay. I was 16 years old and got lost in the city of Hudson. And I was only up on Union Street over by the baseball diamond. I was so scared. I really was so scared. My sister-in-law was like, "You don't have anything to be scared of. All you got to do is turn around and go back." But my parents did not allow me to go past either corner of the block that you lived in. You weren't allowed. I lived on Columbia Street between 2nd and 3rd. That's as far as I could go. And that's as far as I went. Because if I went any further, somebody was going to tell on me. Okay? So I didn't do that. And then on top of that, we lived on Columbia Street. I could go to Columbia and 3rd, but I couldn't cross the street. My father said, no, you stayed there. You didn't go across the street. IGA was not IGA, it was Tony's, and it was on the other side of the street. Okay, so I could go to the store. That's as far as I could go. I remember at one time, I got some money. I must have been about 6 or 7 years old. And I wanted some candy. And there was a store down across the street from where the church is now, Shiloh is now. It's called Ted's. I asked my mother, could I get some candy? And she said, no, wait till your brothers come. But you know, sometimes you get stupid and be disobedient. I took the money off the iron board, so I was going to the store anyway. I knew how to go to Ted's. I went all the way down from 2nd all the way down the front. I got my candy, and at that time my mother had my brothers looking for me. They couldn't find me, but they found Patty Carr. And they said, did you see my sister? Oh, she's right down the street. Patty has gone on to be with the Lord, but from that point on to the day she died, I called her Fat Patty because she told me. I got home. My mother took my candy. She whooped my butt, told me to go to bed, and I better not go to sleep. Now, how can you do that? I never got to eat that candy, so I never did that type of thing again. So that's probably why I got lost when I was 16, because I knew better. We had so many factories, we had so many stores. I take my great-grandchildren now up Warren Street, and I'll say, did you know we had this here, this, that was there? Remember Finkelstein's? And we used to call her Old Lady Finkelstein's. There was Sammy Licious down on the corner of 1st and Warren. My brothers, they shoveled snow for them. That's how you made money when you was a kid, between shoveling snow and having a shoe shine box. All the boys had shoe shine boxes. And because I had 4 brothers older than me, and I wanted to be accepted because most of the time you were told you can't go, you're a girl. I wanted to do what they did. So I learned how to shine shoes just as good as they did. So they would take me so you could make your money. There was just so much more in Hudson. We had the youth center, but we also had the YWCA. Every day I was at the YWCA during the week, except for Monday I was at the Presbyterian Church for Girl Scouts. There was something for you to do as you got older. When you got older, there was the Blue Anchor. There was always something for us young people to do. Blue Anchor was a place where teenagers hung out at. There was jukeboxes, I mean that's what they called them at the time. There was jukeboxes and there was mostly athletes hung out there. And that's what the guys went to meet girls. You had the boys club. It was not the Boys and Girls Club. It was the boys club, and they let you know it wasn't for us. Somewhere along the line, they started letting the girls come on Saturday mornings for like 2 hours. That was it. It was the boys club. So there was a lot more in Hudson to do. We had the glue factory down by the train station. And that place stunk. You knew it was down. If you came up a little bit further, there was Franklin Park. We lived at Franklin Park during the time that we were kids. We got up, my mother got us up. We got on the city bus. We had a real bus, not like that. We had a real bus. And we got on that bus. The bus driver, he would take us down to Franklin Park and take my mother to work. And we stayed at Franklin Park all day. Mommy would get home at 4, at 3:30, the person who was running the park would say, it's 3:30, you need to get ready to go home so you meet your mother home. And that's what you did. You didn't have a whole bunch of babysitters during the summer because your babysitter was the park. And they had so many parks. You had Franklin Park, you had Charles Williams, you had St. Mary's, you had Oakdale, and you had Academy Hill. Did I miss it? I think that was it. We had those parks there. You went to one by where you lived at, but then at the end of the summer, they'd have field day, and there would be tournaments, and there would be a boy of the year and a girl of the year. And everybody fought to try to win to be boy or girl of the year because you got a bicycle. You got a bicycle. But while they was having these tournaments, after the tournament, they had hot dogs and hamburgers and ice cream and soda. And then you came back in the evening so they could give the awards to the people that got the tournaments, and there were fireworks. There were fireworks. So we look forward to that. I know every kid look forward to that. Did one of your sisters or brothers become girl or boy of the year?
Probably, I'm sure. But we had that also in our time. Remember that?
Yeah.
I was young.
Yeah. So we were very active with that. Then, if you Thursday night was the night because everybody got paid on Thursdays, and the store stayed open late. And it was a big thing to go to J.J. Newberry's and sit at the counter and order something. That was the big thing. You got to do your shopping, you got to meet your friends. It was just wonderful. Thursday nights. Okay, excuse me. Thursday night was the night because that was pay night. And I think everybody worked. I don't think there was anybody that was working. I mean, not that there's nothing wrong with public assistance, but I don't think I knew nobody that was on public assistance because what was taught was you get a job. If you got to go clean toilets, you get a job. That's what was taught. And those of us that might have needed it, because I know at one time I did, and I couldn't do it because my father was you ain't going to take no charity. And that's what they believed it was. And there's nothing wrong with that belief because it made me go out and get a job.
We're going to take some questions from the audience in just a minute. I just want to recognize some elected officials that are here. We have in the back, please stand up, our Assemblywoman, Dee Barrett. The mayor of Hudson here.
He had to go to the DRI.
Okay, and we also have our Common Council President of the City of Hudson Council, Tom D. And our Hudson City judge and also track coach. Please stand up.
Linda Musman.
Sorry. Linda Musman was also here, supervisor of the Fourth Ward.
Yes.
I wanted you to before you, I'm going to take some questions for the audience, but I wanted you to think about the more of the job opportunities that were here. And because when you started your story, Miss Emma, you said your husband was here already. So maybe he came up because it was a job opportunity, and then your family came up. So I would like you guys to think about that while I take a question from the audience. Okay. Please stand and speak loudly.
I have a question for Mrs. Krauss. You were born here. Do you know how far back your people go? Were your parents born here? Were their parents?
My parents were not born here.
Okay.
Speaking to me.
My great-grandmother came up and worked in Newton Hook on the brickyard. She had like a rooming house, and then that brought my grandmother and my mom up. And then from Maryland and Washington, D.C. And my father, he came up here from North Carolina. And I don't know how he got up here, but he got up here and met my mom. That's all I know. But there was work here. There wasn't work where they were. That's why they came up here.
Please stand.
I was struck by the community that you described as being very warm and connected.
Speak loudly, please.
What?
Can you speak up, please?
Oh, I was struck by what a warm and connected community you have described. And my family moved up here in 1948. My father was a general surgeon in the area, and your stories brought back the name of someone who meant or who represented a wonderful thing to me, and that was Mildred Hines. I don't know whether any of you knew her. And because my father, when he would be called into the emergency room to take care of people who'd been in a car accident on the Taconic or wherever, if they were not from the area, this was in the 50s, they could not find lodging in Hudson because of the Jim Crow. And he would call Mildred Hines, who would then call around among the families, and they always were welcoming to the people. I don't know when that stopped. That my father, I remember, came home at one point, was very disappointed, was upset, but told me the story. I was only about 10. So that's a long time ago, in the 50s, and I don't know how long that persisted. It's not something that you've described at all, and I don't know whether anyone else knows.
That's interesting. Well, I was thinking of that because we have people in our family who moved up from the South, and I know a lot of people, black people, moved up through that great migration, getting away from all the Jim Crow, the lynchings and all that. I was wondering if that was one of the issues that caused people to come up from your family, and I wanted to know about the CC Club, the Colored Citizens Club. I want to know more about it.
Talk about how your family, the job opportunities, and her question, the lady in the back, they were talking about the Jim Crow era, and is that one of maybe a reason why your family or your husband came up from the South?
No, my husband was, he was a migrant worker. That's how he got to New York. And then after the season went, he got a job, and that's when he sent for me. So, you know, he was working at Red Hook, I think. Then after that, he started working at the cement plant.
Do you know about the CC Club?
The who club?
CC Club. I do know about the CC Club because when I was cleaning up my father's stuff when he passed away. He was one of the initial members of the CC Club. I still was trying to figure out what the CC meant, and it was colored citizens. But by the time I was born, we weren't called colored, so I didn't understand that. But the CC Club was a place that the blacks hung out at. My father would come from work and then go work at the CC Club. They hooked up with the Women's Progressive Club. It came out of the CC Club, and that they did a lot of work with the young people. They donated for like scholarships and stuff like that. They would have dances to raise money. They were a big part of starting the Black American Festival, because the first one came out from the CC Club. Because I remember when they were up there, the mayor was talking, and then they sang what is the Negro National Anthem. I didn't know it. And I remember saying, well, how come we got a Negro National Anthem and we don't know it? Here, I've been here all my life. I didn't know it, but I made sure I learned it from that day on. But because they didn't teach it in school, so why would I know it? You know? But CC Club, it went on for a while, and then they built that new building, and it still went on. But I don't think the younger people had the same feeling toward it that those older people that started it, they had big feeling for it, big feeling for it. They even, I think the last I knew, we had bricks. My father brought bricks in our name to build the new building in his children's name. So it really meant something to him. And what was the other thing?
That's wonderful. Colored citizens. Yes. Isn't that something that for us living here in America, we have to have a place to feel comfortable to say colored citizens? For people that look like us, look like me, look like you, walking around the community in a new place, in a new city, and you want to meet everyone, but you also want to meet your people. And that's a beautiful thing, you know, because if you're coming from someplace, another city, another state, and you're lost, you know, you want to know where are the people, what do they do, where do they hang out, where are the jobs, where are the housing. It's wonderful. Any more questions?
I want to say a couple of things. I'm not going to say it. I feel compelled to. I'm 81 years old, thank God. My grandmother and grandfather and 3 or 4 of my uncles and aunts are buried in the cemetery here in Hudson. I'm even proud of that they died here and that they're buried here. I came to Hudson as a child. Early in life, picking cherries in the cherry orchards around the community in Columbia County. Maybe single digit, 9, 10 years old. We'd be picked up in the morning, we'd go out in the cherry orchards and we'd pick cherries for 35 cents a box like that. But for a 9 or 10-year-old, that was pretty good money. My mother, being the smart woman that she was, got the hell out of Hudson when she finished high school. And she moved to Brooklyn, where she met my father, who was from Pennsylvania. But brought me back to Hudson to visit my grandparents and my aunts and uncles who lived here. Then I became involved in the community of Hudson and had many, many close friends that I grew up with. This woman in the back mentioned Mildred Hines. Well, Mildred Hines' son, many of you may not know, was Leonard Wise. Leonard Wise is the fellow who wrote a book, several books, one of which was made into a film that many of you, I'm sure, have seen. Because I'm 81, I don't remember the name of the damn film. Does anybody remember the name of the movie that Benny made? Anyway, yeah. One other thing, and you can't either. Speaking of which, there's no woman I revere as an icon of the black community in Hudson but this woman here. Nobody I recognize. There may be more, there may be others, but as far as I'm concerned, in my personal opinion, that's the icon of the black community of Hudson. In terms of role modeling and leadership and integrity and dignity, that's her. There certainly are others, but I've known her the longest of all. I want to say also that my uncle, Edward Cannon, who was born in Hudson, he no longer is, a member of the 761st Tank Battalion who kicked ass in Germany during World War II. General Patton sent my uncle and this Black Panther 761st all-black soldiers tank battalion ahead of him and his pearl-handled guns he kept in his pocket, and they whipped the Germans and made the path for the rest of the army to come in and deal with the Germans there. They had the experience of when they captured, because my uncle was an officer, they captured these German officers and they were transporting them from the places where they, kept them captive. The black soldiers rode in the back of the train while the white German Krauss were in the front of the damn train. So, you folks wonder why black people are so angry and have so much age, whether it's in Hudson, New York. It's because of the institutions we have to deal with. We don't mind stupid bigotry. We don't care about an asshole who thinks they're all lazy and blah, blah, blah. We do care about the institutions, health, education, and welfare, in which people who live here of color have been oppressed for so many years, as long as I can remember. The last thing I want to say was my grandmother, Frances Cannon, was the mother of the first Shiloh Baptist Church, and my grandfather, Alan Cannon, was one of the persons who laid the cornerstone for the first Shiloh Baptist Church. So let me tell you, I'm old now. I've had my effort at trying to make a contribution mostly to people with mental illness in Columbia County. That's what I have done for 53 years. So, I'm old, I'm not moving so well, but when you have a get-together like this, I think people need to know exactly how the history of this community has evolved over the years. Many people who came here, like this family, were here for a long time. There were jobs here, there were farms, and people came here from the south. They came in the summertime, they worked in the farms, they went back south, and came back the following year. Then they began to come and stay. They began to come and stay at the same time. The institutions, the industries that were here, the cement factories and the other factories began closing down. So people who came to migrate as farm workers and thought a better life for them was here in Columbia County, found that once they got here, the economy here began to decrease and decrease. Left people who came here with hope of leaving the South, where they were very oppressed, for a better life in the North, okay, and found jobs wanting here. And they became the population, because like she said, people back in them days, our parents and grandparents, they didn't do their damn welfare. They all worked. There were factories and other kinds of things, cement plants. And there were two-parent families.
That's right.
Two-parent families. There were no one-parent mother with 5 and 6 children on welfare. There were two-parent families. I knew every alcoholic in Hudson. Yeah, go old drunk-ass Howard. There's drunk-ass Billy over there. Over here. I mean, we knew them all. So I just wanted to let you know that there's a history here that I pay more attention to, and I wanted to share some of it with you. There's a lot more I could talk about, but I felt like I just had to come up and say there was very few things to let you know that the black community, as far as I'm concerned, is a very, very special community here. I have lived and experienced them. Their will to survive ongoing institutional oppression has been a part of my own personal survival. And I survived in Brooklyn, Queens, etc. But a lot of what I was able to garner from my own energy and strength and fortitude came from my experiences in Hudson. And how me and my friends, many of them, which are gone now, okay, never saw ourselves as less than anybody. You badass, let's play some ball and see what the real badasses are. I'm telling you now, we was the badasses. So, when you can excel that way, it gives you a sense of strength and power, even though you recognize that there are institutions who oppress you. But most of my friends, once they matured, finished high school, they got out of here. They left here. They aren't here anymore. Only a very few. So I've been telling the same things. A fellow, there he is. He and I met about 2 months ago. And we decided we were going to start an organization. And the organization was going to be, how are we going to help our young people? And we thought what we would do, Eli and I, is start a group that said, this is an organization which goal is about get the hell out of Hudson.
That was all you.
Well,
I'm not going to disrespect my elders.
You sure agreed. You agreed. You said, yeah, man. Thank you all so much.
So I wanted to ask you two ladies, you know, when you were telling your stories about how you was walking around and got lost, and how when you got here and you was walking around and you met friends, can you tell everyone, like, what was the dynamics of Hudson back then? Because right now, we're in an era of Black Lives Matter, you know, where people of color are fighting against police brutality and things of that nature today. You know, can you tell us what it was back then in Hudson?
Well,
Well, to me, it wasn't as bad in the 60s like it is now. It wasn't, you know.
Can you
that's all I
describe
can say.
it?
I mean, it might have been, but I didn't see it. Okay, that's all I can say.
It wasn't anything like it is now. Everybody cared about everybody. When I said I didn't go off the block because somebody would tell it, they would tell it. You didn't go off the block. Your neighbor was just as much your mother as your mother was. Your neighbor was just as much your father as your father was. There was nobody. You respected adults all the time, even to the bums in the alley.
That's right.
Mr. X. Okay, it was Mr. X, and he'd be just as drunk as a coot with a bottle of silver satin in his hand, but you better not disrespect him because he was an adult. My mother would leave us in the yard and tell them, I'm going to the store, could you look out for my kids? The bums in the alley. But now we don't want nobody to say anything to our kids. If somebody's kid was fighting, somebody else could come out and say, wait a minute, y'all stop that stuff. Don't let me call your mother. Lady saw me up the street. I was like 4 houses from my house. And I was chasing this boy up the street because he had hit me. She didn't care why I was up there. She said, you better get down the street before I call Bernice. Well, guess what? I turned around to go down the street and she had called Bernice. And I'll never forget it because I had to stay around the corner for the whole summer. You can't listen. There wasn't nothing around the corner on my block. Everybody played up further. So, yeah, things are a lot different. If you saw somebody hungry, you fed them. It didn't matter. It didn't matter who they were, what color they were. You didn't even have to like them, but if they was hungry, you still fed them. Right. So that's different now. But it's not different in me because I can't help it. What my mother put in me is still in me. It ain't going nowhere. I pass it down to my kids, and they be looking at me a lot of times like, Mom. You don't have, no, I don't know no other way, and I don't want to know any other way. There were so many places to work. If somebody didn't have a job, and I knew about a job, I was supposed to tell them. You didn't mind co-signing that type of thing. Now you don't want to give nobody a reference so they can mess up your name, but back then you would. So it was a big, 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 big difference than what it was. Now I'm kind of leery about my babies walking the street without an adult. We could go to the store after we got a certain age. We could go to the store by ourselves. Not now. I don't care if it's daylight or nighttime, because they don't care. So some of it, the breakdown has come from not having a two-parent household. That there's no man there to say, wait a minute, because we all, whether we want to admit it or not, little girls need to have a man say, you do good. My dad would come in the morning, I'd get up, he'd say, you can't walk around here in your pajamas. You got brothers, get dressed. But now they're walking out in the street in their pajamas. Okay, so, you know, that's the whole thing. My dad said, you get up, you get washed, you get dressed, you put on some clothes. Go out the street with headscarves and any kind of, no, you don't do that. And I think all of those little things made a difference. It may seem like it's little, and it don't matter, but you take a lot of little things and drop them to the wayside, and you wind up with nothing. And that's what we got. That's what we got. You constantly hear about Fifth Street, Fifth Street, Fifth Street. Everything that has happened on Fifth Street didn't involve anybody that lived on Fifth Street. Okay? It wasn't us that was on Fifth Street. It was somebody else bringing their garbage from where they lived to where we lived. But back in the day, there would be men that would take the stand and say, wait a minute, this ain't happening. It ain't happening. So until we get back, no matter what color you are, to start caring about each other and really caring. And I've learned these last 6 months that people care. I'm up in Albany and my house is being renovated. But I have neighbors that will text me and say this and that is happening. I got neighbors that will call my son and say, oh, your alarm is going off. If that wasn't happening, there'd be a lot of mess going on. My neighbors care. Until we start caring, and your neighbor don't have to be the person next door to you either. That's right. That's right. Okay, they don't have to be the person person next door to you. Could be the person, any person in Hudson. Walk through Hudson. Because if I see you're hungry and you're not from Hudson and I feed you, I'm just as much your neighbor as that person that lives next door to you.
Somebody will feed you. Right. And I want to tell you something that Miss Toni Krauss left out. That's very important. Miss Toni Krauss is the second African American person to be on the Common Council of Hudson.
All right.
Talk about the experience,
please. I was on the Common Council only because my pastor came to me. I didn't want to do it because that's not who I am. I'm not good at stuff like that. And he said, for such a time as this, you were placed here for such a time as this. And I got on, and it was interesting, but a lot of things that I saw I didn't like, I didn't agree with, and I didn't even begin to know how to combat it. I would get phone calls in the morning before I go to work from a Common Council member. We're going to do this, da-da-da-da-da. We want you to do this, da-da-da-da-da. And I'd be like, why? I don't understand. I can't do that, and I don't know why. We would have meetings. I was working. The meeting was at 7 o'clock. I would get off at my job at 7 o'clock. I was on 4th Street, and all I had to do was run up to City Hall, and the meeting would be over. So when I didn't win the second time, it didn't faze me. It didn't faze me. Because some people are better geared for something like that. And I need to share this one thing about that whole experience. There was a time when they had on the table about a curfew for our kids to have to come in at a certain time. I didn't agree with that because my kids come in, but I tell them, it's not your job to tell my kids what time to come in. And the kids that were acting up were the folks over there on Union Street. So you tell them they got a curfew. So when I would vote on it, they tabled it. It never came up again while I was in office. But when they had the thing about the animals, and there was hardly anybody there at the meeting. But when they had the thing about the animals, there were so many people there, they was down to the corner, out the door. So what's more important? These animals are not, I'm not saying you should mess up animals, but what's more important, animals or my babies?
Your baby.
Okay? And so when I thought about that, I said, no, but this ain't for me. And I will support anybody else that goes up there and do the right thing, but I can't do it. I just can't. You know, you're going to give me a little thing to pray and tell me what to pray for. I know God. I know how to pray. You know, those were the things that bothered me, and that's why I shouldn't have been in there.
Okay, any more questions from the audience? Maria, I'm sorry. Maria? Stand up and speak up.
Hi, I'm a resident of Hudson. I've been here 10 years now. I live in Bliss Towers. And I just want to say thank you so much for the history. I know a lot by reading from the books and talking to people and this and that, and some of the negative of Hudson and a lot of the positive. But I wanted to ask, when you had mentioned about the different parks, there were so many parks here. And right. And I don't know what it came to mind about Oakdale.
Yes.
Was that also here when you?
Yes, Oakdale was a park playground.
Okay, because I noticed you didn't mention that one.
I did.
Oh, you did? You did? Okay. And I want to ask also too, where was the YWCA Act? Where was it? Where was it located?
It's a few doors down from City Hall.
Yeah.
Okay. Coming down the street from City Hall.
Thank you.
I wonder, when you were the second black on the city council, on the common council, I wonder what year that was and who your predecessor was, who was the first.
Joette Bell was there first.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't start to the 90s.
I don't know, I put that on my mind.
Oh, really?
People of color didn't get elected to the 90s here in Hudson.
I hear that.
Isn't that something? That's why you had to have a club like the CC Club. You understand?
Okay. I heard there was two segregated schools here too at one time.
Was there segregated schools here?
Not while I was here. There was a bunch of schools, and I guess if you want to say segregate, the only thing that was divided was by where you lived at. But there was just, in fact, the schools, as kids we used to say, they had the checkerboard system. You had white, black, white, black. Because you didn't get more than 3 or 4 blacks in a classroom. Okay. You didn't get more than 3 or 4. And if you had more than 3 or 4, they labeled it the bad kids. Oh yeah, that's the way it was. So I don't know about segregated schools. The whole time I was in school, it was not segregated. St. Mary's. Well, St. Mary's is a Catholic.
I went to school one year here in 1948, 6th grade. And I came from a Catholic school in Brooklyn run by Franciscan brothers. Coming to Hudson to go to school was a relief for me. As a matter of fact, I had the same teacher my mother had when she was a child. And I found the one year I was here, according to my peers, my classmates and my friends who lived here, they never complained about being mistreated because of the color of their skin. They were getting an education. They took whatever it was about a teacher who may have been a bit grouchy, not to be about her race issue, but her personality more than anything else, So no, I can say no, there wasn't that.
Well, that didn't start happening until like the 70s. The 70s when they started having riots and they started having protests for the Hill, and it just started leaving on from there on in.
One other thing.
Hold on.
Tiffany.
Yes.
One other thing I forgot to mention. When people came here from the South as migrant workers during the late 40s, 50s, and 60s, they went back home and came back the following year. And then the jobs began to decrease. The major thing that happened, I believe, in my experience again, the way I experience it, they missed the civil rights movement in the South. They missed it by coming here to Hudson and upstate New York. So they had no sense of black being beautiful or black being anything but second class. They came to Hudson where there was no damn civil rights movement. Okay? So they totally missed, a generation missed that whole experience of being able to identify with feeling that they are important as anybody else. We wouldn't be having these, what's that slogan that we're using? I don't even know if they remember it. What is it? Black what? What is it? Black Lives Matter. What bullshit, okay? It's always mattered to most of us, I think. But what happened was you did not have the experience where your black life mattered when you came to Hudson. And you missed it by leaving the South. There are black mayors all over the South and have been there for years and years and years. You ain't never going to see a black mayor in this burg, okay?
You never know that, though. You never know that.
Well, we'll see.
You know, and what Alan says just now, you know, I hear a lot of rumbling in the audience because, you know, what he said, it's true. You know, the era that he comes from, you know, they stood up. I'm black and I'm proud. You know, they had those dance halls, they had those get-togethers, those barbecues, where they welcomed all people, but they encouraged one another. And that's what's missing today. And others are taking advantage of black people today, and that's why we scream out as a younger generation, Black Lives Matter. Okay, and I know I heard something about riots happen. Can you tell us a few about that? And I hope you all are hungry because we have a delicious menu. Thanks to Miss Annette right there, Miss Annette Perry. All right, Annette. Can you talk about the riots, and then we're gonna close out with Miss Emma, and I want you all to get ready to eat.
Well, the only one riot that I remember, we was in high school, and I think the teachers were on strike. The teachers were on strike, so...
the year was 1970.
Oh, I thought it was in the 70s. And I remember wanting to go home because there was stuff rumbling. You knew it was getting ready to happen. And I went and they told us anybody that would go home was going to be suspended. And I said, well, y'all just going to have to suspend me because I'm going home. And I went home because I was scared. And I remember when I got home, it was on the radio that they was rioting and fighting up at the school. And there were some people that were out of school. And that meant that they were 18, 19, and 20 that came up and was a part of it. And I knew I just didn't want to be a part of it. I wasn't fighting. I didn't care about what they were doing. My mother said, you go to school to learn, you don't go to school to fight. But that's what happened then. And then there were some riots where Martin Luther King got assassinated. But that was just on the streets. That wasn't at the school. Okay. And then from there on in, they started protesting for the Hill at Montgomery C. Smith, and for us ladies to wear pants because it was cold. Those were the type of things that happened there. But that was it. That was a one-day riot. That was enough.
Okay, one more question.
Was there ever NAACP?
Yes, we had NAACP.
We had the NAACP chapter.
We had the young people chapter.
Can I speak on that?
Okay.
I was asked by the previous president of the NAACP to assume the directorship of the NAACP of the Hudson chapter. I got absolutely no backing from the black community here in Hudson, no you. The backing I got was from this woman sitting right here, and that one, Slonica, where is she? She's sitting over there, and a couple of other people, and a couple of crazy black men who thought they could use NAACP to further their own personal goals. So I pulled the plug on it, and that's been the end of it.
Because I was going to ask this too.
There was an NAACP when we were growing up, because I used to go. I remember Stanley Watkins was the secretary because he had the best handwriting. Mr. Harris was the president. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Miss Emma, can you let us know while your husband was working, you know, how was it raising your family? You had 5 girls and a boy, right?
No.
No? How many children?
5 girls and 2 boys.
It was close. How was it for you raising your children coming up from Florida?
Well, it was, I guess, like raising kids, but I think when I got here, I got a job myself. I worked not days and my husband worked nights. So that's, you know, that's how we raise our kids.
Okay.
We both work.
Okay. Are you all hungry?
Yes.
We have some black-eyed peas, some fried chicken, some ziti, the macaroni salad. All right now, before you get up, I just want to present something to these two lovely ladies. There is a donation box out front that will help support the library as well as SVK's programs and events. And I would like to take this time out for thanking you two lovely ladies for being a part of our event and giving us here a little bit of history of the Black community in Hudson. Thank you.